Jennifer Nelson here, host of the Pocket Hours podcast. Here at Pocket Hours, I get to interview fabulous individuals in our industry to help educate us all and to up our game. We get to hear from them their secret sauce, how they are successful to hopefully help inspire us to do better work. The cool part is, as you listen to these interviews, you can also get clock hours on the go. So you listen to a podcast and then you email us at info@scoutrealestate.com to learn more about obtaining those hours. In the meantime, thanks for tuning in and let's have some fun learning how to be better at what we do. I had the privilege of interviewing Rebecca Ross, our very own scout broker Rebecca Ross, about open houses today. If you are a broker who says, "Oh, open houses, I don't want to do them," or "Oh, I do them, but I don't really know if they're worth it," or "I'm okay at them, but I'd like to be better at them," this is your podcast. This is one to listen to. She talks about mindset, how to prep yourself. She talks about how to be a good host, how to set up the signs, how to ask neighbors to come, maybe shadowing an agent, and maybe doing good follow up. There's just really good meat in this episode. I'm excited for you to hear from Rebecca. Here we go. I get to interview my broker, Rebecca Ross, who has become my friend and who's also someone who kicks ass at open houses. And it's why I asked her to be on the podcast today. I'm super excited to get into that. But first of all, welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. We are, just so y'all know, not that you care, but it's interesting. We work at the same company. So I'm in one room of Scout office and Rebecca's right out there. I can wave at her, but we are sequestered so that this works better. Anyway, I'm super glad you're on the show. Just for our listeners, tell us a little bit about how long you've been in the biz.
Oh, starting off with a trick question. So I think I got my license in 2020. So we're looking at
Okay.
about 6 years now.
Woo, look at you. Awesome.
Crazy.
And what did you do prior to real estate?
I had my time in retail. So about 18 years of retail
Mm.
management. And yeah, I put in my time.
Yes. You said management, right? Or you did some management in that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I was with Bed Bath and Beyond. I'll drop the triple B name. So yeah, I was with them, like I said, for 18 years. I bounced around the nation, helping them with different stores and different locations, and had a lot of opportunities then. But things change, and priorities changed, and eventually that led to a career path change as well.
Right on. And what drew you to real estate? Like you went from doing retail management to all of a sudden real estate. That's a switch. What happened there?
Well, first off, I want to say it's really funny. My mom, when I was young, used to say that I should be a real estate agent. I don't know exactly why we used to look at houses and thought it was really cool and just appreciated architecture and homes, but that's not the reason to get into real estate. It's people, right? Which is why it probably made it a really easy transition going from working with people so closely and constantly in retail to all of a sudden having those conversations with a total stranger. You got to get used to doing that if you haven't already been.
We're going to get into this in a minute, but it is truly, I think, one of the reasons why you are so good at open houses because you've practiced for years to hone that skill. For those of you listening that are like, "I'm not very good at open houses," listen, because you don't have to come to this table with all the skills. But I will say that Rebecca's pretty committed to making sure when she's standing in line to get donuts with her family, there's no chance that she's going to leave that line without talking to somebody that she doesn't know. And so that's that Ford concept from Ninja, that family occupation, recreation dreams that we say, strike a conversation, practice those skills, right? So I love that you do that. Okay, so you've been in 6 years and tell me what percentage of your business you think comes from open houses?
The last couple of years, it's been pretty much 50% of my transactions come from open houses. The other half is probably strongly referrals. But yeah, about 50% is open houses. And it's been really interesting to go back and reflect because, doing lots of open houses can be very tiring, but it's actually just doing a few really well that can really make the difference.
50% or around about is a giant number. If you lined up 100 brokers in a row and said, "Is there any one thing that you do that gets you 50% of your business?" There's hardly anybody that can speak to that, which is precisely why I wanted you to come on the show. Let's go back to when you first started the business, and everyone says, "Go do open houses," right? And did you know what you were doing? Like, talk us through those first open houses that you did.
This is actually really funny. And there's a quick shout out here to Sue Morrow. She's here at Scout. When I first got my license, I was going into the offices. I was with a different brokerage at the time. And yeah, the pounding is go do open houses, go do open houses. And you're like, great, I'm going to go do an open house. So I had no idea who to call or what to do about that. So funny enough, I was driving up Admiral Way here in West Seattle, and Sue had a sign out front. It turns out it was for land, but I called her and I'm like, "Hey, I see your sign. You must be in the industry. What can I do? Do you have an open house for me?" And she's like, "Funny enough, I have something coming up in a couple weeks, and I would love to show you the way." And she kind of scooped me up and put me under her wing, as you will, and really kind of showed me the ropes. She showed me the house ahead of time. We walked through it. She gave me great pointers on things to point out, how to really show off that I was knowledgeable about the home, even though this was my very first one. That was during a time when there was multiple offers and things like that too. So she was really grooming me to understand the questions that people were going to ask, how to answer them, how to provide great information, and then potentially get some of those leads. And then after the words, she actually walked me through the results of that open house and then also of the offer review. So a huge shout out to her. She made a huge impact in my start.
That's awesome. I want to just say though, for the listeners, that I wrote down, I'm taking notes, and I wrote down ask. And so Rebecca's really good at asking for something. So she called Sue, right? And she said, "What do you got for me?" So if you're out there thinking, "I don't know how to get an open house," well, let's make it real simple. You got to ask. And I want to back up just a little bit further from that to say, tell us a little bit about the partnerships that you can create with these listing agents that have them call you when they have a listing and do an open house. Like, what does that look like?
Obviously, being professional and having clear communication with them, acknowledging that they worked hard to get this listing in the first place. So it's an honor. I'm hosting for you. This is a big deal. So having that mindset is part of it. And then just building good rapport, giving them good feedback, a good recap of what's happening. I mean, obviously, if you can bring them an offer, they love you for that. But just kind of building that rapport so that when they have new listings coming up, you're one of the first ones they either call or they just keep you in the loop on things. And some of that is even just, networking with them outside of that, going out for coffee every so often. How's business going for you? That's part of the ninja process too, is just having a good rapport with other agents outside your office. But you never know, that's top of mind. And next thing you know, you're getting a call and getting set up for these really highly desirable new listings that are coming out.
I remember back in the day when I started real estate, everyone told me the same thing: go do open houses. And so I would go and set up my signs, three or four of them around the house, kind of irritated that I was setting up signs. That's a pain in the butt. And I would sit the open house, and three people would come in, and I would sort of check a box and say, okay, I did an open house. But no one sort of taught me how to leverage an open house. Why am I doing it? How to do it that would change me not feeling like I just wasted 4 hours of my life on a Sunday when I would have rather been doing other things, but really like how to leverage it. So if you can speak to, start us from the beginning. You call a listing agent that you've maybe worked with before, or maybe you don't know, and start us there.
So let's kind of back up first, trying to identify one that's going to be really good for you. Might be, staying in the same neighborhood or general area. It might be staying within a certain price point, especially consistently, because that one buyer that might come through a busy open house that never really connects with you sees you at the next one where there's only two people, and all of a sudden, you're making that connection the second time around. So there's repetition in that, and that can be really impactful. So identifying a great open house, there's definitely different traffic that'll come through different price points and different types of homes. It's great to be specific, but sometimes you just have to get out there. So previewing the home, huge. How many times have I told you about different stories of going and seeing a home that I've signed up for an open house and had to provide the listing agent with a little constructive feedback prior to the open house, or just going into it prepared with a broom and some wipes yourself. So there's a little prep work as far as that goes.
I want to just cut in for a second to say the preview part is so important because you're putting your name on it. And even if you're brand new in this industry, you're throwing signs out all over, people are seeing your name, and then they're coming to this house that you didn't preview. There's poop in the toilet and it looks like junk. The yard isn't mowed. And so people assume that's your listing, right? That's one of the things that works for us in an open house. And now they're associating Rebecca Ross or Jennifer Nelson with, like, wow, that house looked not ready for market. Find an agent, like you said, that puts out a great product. You sort of know that they're not going to ever do that. And so you stick with them, you call them, you say, I'd like to hold your opens because you know they have a good product coming to market. Let's talk a little bit about signs. And I know Teresa Bianchi, she's hopefully listening to this or will listen to this later. But we always joke that you got to Teresa Bianchi it. We make it a verb to say, like she does, 89 signs. I'm just making it up, but she does a lot of signs. But is it the quantity isn't as important as the where, right? So talk to us a little bit how you strategize, where you put your signs.
That's part of the preview process as you're getting to the home, understanding where those key points are to put them out. I often will do balloons. I don't go by helium. I'll just blow up balloons and use them all weekend long, tied up, just loop them up there. Teal is my favorite color. For those of you who can see me, might guess that.
She has teal hair for those of you that can't see her.
Yeah, something that kinda grabs some additional attention, maybe some movement, which really sucks when you're loading up your car at the end and it's pouring rain and you have a bunch of wet balloons and wet signs in your car, but that's part of the process. So, signs, visuals definitely helps lead them to the property, so they're important. I probably need more, but I have 5. I've made 5 work. I just got one of them back. I'm excited.
Hey, good. 5 is fine. And I will say though, trying to put the hat on to say, if I'm a buyer out today, where's the most of the traffic going to come from? So like it's easy to just put signs out. But it's like, "Oh, I should actually put one here as opposed to here because I bet there's more people at this stop sign or this whatever than there is another place," right? So, like, spending the extra 3 minutes to think about strategize about where the signs are gonna draw the most people to the house, right? And we know also a lot of people come to open houses because they see it online. And so the signs are important, but often we get people that are gonna just put it in their GPS and come anyway. So that's good. We like those people.
Yeah, well, keep in mind those signs are out there for visibility for you as an agent too. Get the same folks that are driving past the farmers market every Sunday and your sign is just everywhere down California Ave. They're going to remember your name.
Let's back up even more. I know we talk at Scout about this, and I've taught an open house class for several years about this, but and maybe you do or don't do this, but I think you realize the importance of it. The sort of prep before the open, if there's knocking on doors, if there's inviting people, neighbors to come, do you do it? And if so, why? And all that.
I think I'm going to lay down a special secret here. When I'm able to get a listing of my own, I really love doing the neighborhood open house. You have to really plan for it timing wise to make sure you've got visibility to the neighbors, that you've got all your photos done so you can make flyers, that you have the time to go door knock or really kind of spread yourself out there. But inviting the neighbors to come to that neighbors only open house, it is not advertised on the MLS, it is not going to be found to the general public, but it is really truly a private invitation to those neighbors to come and take a look at the house. They likely knew the neighbors that are selling and they're nosy neighbors, right? They just want to come see what's been done to the house. Usually they have some sort of remodel idea they have in their own head and want to see what's been done. And it's just really a lot of fun. You can learn a lot as the listing agent and as the person who's going to be holding the open houses to understand what that community is and get to know all those fun people. And it's a great turnaround that you can reach out to them after the fact and say, "Hey, thanks so much for coming. I really enjoyed your time." I've had them reach out to me for references for carpet cleaners or painters, or you kind of become their source. You get to really get to know those people and then become a source for them as well, besides your own actual client. So it can be a lot of fun.
I like the idea of knocking on doors only in that because most of the time that's not comfortable and it's a pain and it's extra time. But if you're able to actually have someone open the door and they see your face and you hand them an invitation, which people like getting invited, and then it's like, "Hey, just saying hi, I'm holding the house down the street open." And then they come to the open house. There's already a connection built, right? Like you sort of said that. It's that, "Oh, hey, yeah, I remember meeting you and welcome. And what questions do you have?" So the extra effort can go a long way for someone finally saying or eventually saying, "Can you come let us know what our house is worth?" Right? And those are the golden words. That's where we're like, "It's worth it all," right there. That's lovely. Okay, so yeah, doing a little bit of planning ahead of time to spend 30 minutes even hitting the 5 houses on the left, 5 houses on the right, 5 houses across the street to invite them to the open. And then Rebecca, I love what you said, the nosy neighbor open house, or that's not a very nice name, but the neighborhood open house. Let's back up though. Let's say you're doing a neighborhood one on a Friday. Tell us a little bit about the timing of that and how you do that.
I would do, depending on the timing you can go live, a Thursday actually is, I think, ideal for the neighbors. Evening one, something when they can get out of work. So maybe it's a 4 to 6, or, daylight is tricky sometimes, but something along those lines where you can capture folks as they're coming home from work. So yeah, like a 4 to 6 on a Thursday would be ideal. You could do it on a Friday, but sometimes we try to do that to the general public. So yeah, timing for that, I think, is just capturing them at the end of the workday.
So Thursday's a neighborhood, and then let's say you're doing a Friday. What's the reasoning for a Friday open house?
folks are generally getting into the weekend mode at that point, right? So it's almost happy hour time for a lot of folks. Invite them over. Again, usually that time frame of like a 4 to 6. You could do something maybe earlier, like a 3 to 5. But again, that's just kind of like before the craze, essentially, for them of the weekend traffic that you might get from other buyers and open houses. So that's why that timing works.
A lot of people come on market on a Thursday. Because of that, someone who's looking for a house is online, as we know already, maybe at 2 in the morning in their pajamas, looking for houses, and this listing pops up. And if they have a chance to say, "Oh my gosh, I can run through it Friday on my way home from work and then talk to my agent about it or whatever," let's give them that chance, right? Like that's the whole point of this is like, let's capture those people who are on it, who are ready to buy, who can come see it. Okay. So you've done the Thursday neighborhood one, you've done the Friday one, and then Saturday comes. Let's talk a little bit about some of your do's and don't for open houses. How do you prep a home? What do you do? What time do you get there? All that stuff.
So a minimum of 30 minutes before any open house, I'm there, sometimes longer than that.
And tell us why.
You just never know what you're gonna encounter when you walk up to a house, right? Maybe there's been a windstorm and all the patio furniture is now in the neighbor's yard. You're the one that's gonna be representing this house. So just getting in there to give yourself some time to make sure everything is as it should. I'm still kind of old school. Back in COVID time, we had to have people sign in, and I'm still a pen and paper kind of girl. So I'm sorry for the trees, but I'm going to ask you to write down your name and phone number and email for me. And, they don't have to, and some don't, and that's totally fine. But that's another one of those things that prepping, flyers are kind of a tricky story. Sometimes I feel like they're worthwhile. Sometimes it's a lot of trees. Most of the time, I don't think I really do them, especially if the agent who's listing has some flyers there. That provides the information about the house, but I'm really there to talk to them and represent them as a buyer. So they can get all that information otherwise. So I don't spend a lot of time with flyers, but I do have a sign in sheet. I have business cards. My dad, when I first started, he made me out of wood. He's a woodworker, a little card holder. So every time I have my dad's wood holder for my business cards. And sometimes it's weird. People will just take a business card and leave, and I've never heard from them and never talked to them. But you know what? That's fine. That's part of the business. Signing in, I'm not a big snacks and drinks and like all the extra stuff. I'd rather just talk to you. So if I can't engage with you in a conversation, then tricking you by drinking water with me doesn't really seem like it's going to go anywhere.
I think there's different lines of thought on that. I will say for anybody that does a snack, make sure it's something that doesn't crumble all over your floor. Those kids that have come through our open houses and you provide cookies, and then you're like, oh my gosh, there's cookies everywhere in this house. They dropped them throughout the entire house. So whatever you do, package things, individual things, and or nothing, which I think is fine too. The average time people are in an open house is less than a half hour, usually less than about 10 minutes. And so it's not our responsibility to feed them. It's nice, it's hostessy, but not necessarily your job. Let's get into the meat of this. This is kind of the setup, what things to do, the do's and don'ts, what time to arrive, close the toilet seats, turn on the lights, all the things. But then what I really want listeners to hear from you, Rebecca, is how you're so able to convert. What parts of that do you think contribute to people saying, "Hey, we have an agent, but now we want to work with you," or "We don't have an agent, we want to work with you"? Tell us a little bit about why you think that happens for you.
Some of it's the initial approach. I don't like to pounce on them at the front door. I like puns. I like to be a little cheesy sometimes. So, when they're walking in the door and the first thing they see are booties at the front door and they're like looking at their feet and looking at the booties and looking at their feet. And then they look at you like deer in headlights. What should I do? Just kind of being lighthearted about it all. Like, hey, I get to see your socks if you don't want to wear them. Like just put them at ease. Realize that you're not there to like just jump all over them. And I'm always at a distance. Floor plans are tricky sometimes, but if it's an open layout and I can be in the dining room, just kind of giving them space to walk in and absorb before I really engage with them, like I feel like that just kind of allows them to realize that they're here to see the house and not me. So I let them wander. I encourage them. A townhouse, those are tricky, like they're coming through the front door. You're on the second level. You're yelling down to them, welcome, like it's awkward. So just, a quick wave of, hey, thanks for coming in. Feel free to check out the bottom floor. I'll catch up with you up here. Feel free to let me know what you think down there while you're at it. Open some doors, run that water, take a look. Just encouraging to flow and walk and explore and put them at ease is probably one of the first things I feel like I do a good job with. And again, some of that comes back to my retail experience. There was always that like within 5 minute greet. So then it's walking through the house. I don't follow them typically. If there's something I really want to point out, I'll direct them, but I'm not hovering. Don't hover. Let them have some space.
Nobody likes a hover.
Yeah. And then, it's the questions like, hey, how's your search going? Is this your third house or fifth house today? Whatever it is, it's always very casual. It's not, hey, do you have an agent? You will see them back up real fast. You start doing that.
It's true. That's very true.
But yeah, just kind of ask him about the process. How's it going? What do you think of this house? The two bedrooms are a little tight. What do you think of that? Like, what are you planning to use that for? They start kind of opening up and starting to share things. And my favorite is when they've gone through the house and then they come back through a second time. That's super fun. I'm like, oh, you're here a second time. That means it's pretty serious. Let's talk.
Pocket Hours is brought to you by Scout Real Estate. Hi, I'm Jennifer Nelson, owner at Scout Real Estate. I started this firm with the vision of doing things differently, with our focus on legendary service for our clients and creating a community of producing agents to spur each other to do higher quality work. If you are interested in learning more about how a small group of like-minded brokers have come together to have some fun while doing a lot of business, reach out to me, 206-227-7966, or email jennifer@scoutrealestate.com. I promise you this, fun is a high priority for me, but so is winning. So if you appreciate those two things, you might be interested in Scout. Looking forward to hearing from you. I was thinking as you were talking about the people that are coming into the house with their boots on and the booties and whatever. You know this story, Rebecca, because you've been to my open house class. But my girlfriend at the time, Susie, who was like 6 feet tall, super friendly nurse. And I begged her to come to the open house with me because we didn't see each other at all that week. So she's like, fine, I'll come. And so she's sitting there. She doesn't care about anything, right? She's got no dog in this fight. So she's just hanging out. And this guy walks into the house and he's kind of gruff because a lot of people feel suspicious, like you're going to try to sell me something. And so he comes in with that affect for sure, and he looks down at his boots, looks up, and sort of gruffly says, "Do I have to take off my boots?" And Susie, before I could stop her, bless her heart, she said, "You absolutely do, just because they're so ugly." And I was like, "Dear God, you're gonna push him away." He laughed his head off. He loved it. It calmed it down. It diffused it. She said it with a smile. She could pull it off because she was a 6 foot beauty who was obviously playing with him. Like you were saying, I love that sort of let's take this fear of me pouncing on you and trying to get your business out of it. And if there's unique ways to do that, do it. Practice that, different things to say. And you can watch people's affect change, right? And sort of calm down and know that. I love that. That's great. I know we have something at Scout that's a print off that says boldly, "I'm not the listing agent on this house. I'm here to represent buyers." Have you ever used that, Rebecca?
I haven't. I, again, just kind of rely on that word of mouth conversation. So, again, that can get a little tricky depending on the traffic flow. You've got some open houses where you're like, thank goodness somebody came through here. And on other ones where you're like, I think I've done one for you where I actually literally just took a picture of all the shoes piled up at the front door and said, hey, this is how many came through. You have to kind of use that to an advantage where one conversation you might be having directly with someone, you're saying loud enough that everybody else walking around is hearing you. So it kind of helps establish that you're knowledgeable, that you can answer direct questions, that you're the resource for them if as they're walking through the house. That's another kind of trick to use. But that's why, again, I don't think a lot of people will just stand there and look at my paperwork. I'm engaged with them.
So let me give you a scenario because I know this is a question for a lot of agents. They're at a busy open house and somebody's got their ear. Somebody's going for it. Okay. They're the person who you are pretty sure isn't a buyer or a seller. They're someone who maybe you've seen at other opens and they like to talk about houses. They're a hobby open houser, right? So, how do you handle them while at the same time trying to engage people that are walking in the door? Even if they're someone you're talking to, but there are still several people coming in the door.
So body language is probably a huge part of that. You can't have your back to the door. You might be speaking with this, person who's trying to take some of your time. So you're still acknowledging them, but you have to have your head on a swivel. You're directing like, "Hey folks, come on in. Hey, thanks for coming through here. Take a look around. Let me know if you have any questions." And then you're back to this other person. Respect them obviously is a huge piece, but if they've already been looking at a bunch of houses or if they really just love this neighborhood, they could be a resource for you. all of a sudden you've got somebody coming through who's like, "Hey, I don't know this neighborhood very well. Is there a park nearby?" You're like, "Look at this person right here next to me that knows all of these things. They might be really able to tell you a whole lot more than I can." We try to be the experts, but allow somebody who's right there to feel important, to be part of that, and to be a resource for you.
That's so smart. It's sort of like being good at a cocktail party. This is skill building to be able to say, I just met this person who lives 2 doors down. And then I just have this buyer who's asking me a question about the neighborhood. Hmm. Let me introduce you to the neighbor, right? Someone who lives here. Like, that's just perfect. It's smart. It's really good. I love it. Okay. So you're having these conversations. How does it go then that either they say, okay, Rebecca, we want to write this house, which actually happened on my listing for you, which was amazing. Like, tell us about that. Like, what happens there?
I mean, it happens different ways. I've had it happen several times when I'm actually hosting the open house and you're surrounded by 38 other people and you get somebody that walks up and says, "We don't have an agent. We were just walking by. We live in the neighborhood, but we love this and we want to buy it. What can we do?" That happened at your listing actually, which was one of my most successful open houses. I ended up with, I think it was 4 transactions off of that one open house, and there's still some leads coming from that. It's then being able to handle and not doing that deer in headlights look. I think it's Tommy Boy when they're in the restaurant and he gets the client and he's, like, massaging the biscuit and it's just like, "Oh my gosh," and it explodes, right? You don't wanna do that. Take a moment and be in charge and be the resource and say, "Okay, fantastic. Let's get your contact information. I'm gonna be, kind of wrapped up with some of this here in a little while. Let's have a conversation and we'll go from there." So, it's absolutely going, "I've got this. We can do this. Give me like an hour, we'll finish this up, and then we'll be in contact and we can go from there and connect them with the lender or do whatever you need to do to get that ball rolling." It's don't allow yourself to get all encumbered by that one client because you might have 4 more leads walking around that open house. So, acknowledging it, taking control of that situation, getting their contact information, and then moving forward with them afterwards, it can be very great, obviously, but then you've got other leads there that you can work with. And so it's kind of like when you have a listing and you're so excited about it, and then you kind of forget to do all the other things in your sphere to make sure you have another transaction next, right?
And I also think there's an air of professionalism that comes from a person who says, absolutely, I can help you. Sort of, I'm at work right now too. And so let's do it later. Because that person who's like, oh my gosh, we want to buy this house wants someone to be even keeled and take control of the process. Right. And so your ability to say, yes, oh my gosh, this is exciting. Let's talk at 4 when I'm done enables you to go grab some more business, but also them to go, oh, it's okay. She's got it. Right. We're not going to miss out on anything, which I love. I love that. So, what about the people who call you later? So, you make a connection where you're having a good conversation with someone, and then a week later they call you. Why do you think that happens? Like, what is it about your skill set or something that has that happen? A lot. It happens a lot for you.
I mean, there's always follow-up with the open houses, even if it's somebody who isn't interested, isn't necessarily looking. It could be a neighbor. It's not necessarily somebody we would expect to do something anytime soon, really. It's not a boilerplate email, it's specific. I take notes. I try to remember everything I can about these folks. So then it's that follow-up email of like, "Hey, Susie, thanks for coming through with your kids. I know they were keeping you running, but it was great to meet you, and I'm local. I'm here in the area. If something comes up, please reach out, but I just really appreciate you coming through." And each email is different. There's no stationery in my email formats. So making it individual, making it personal, and you just never know when those phone calls will come from you. I did an open house this past Sunday and I had 2 folks come through. One that I was able to set up with a lender and she's working towards a future purchase. But I got a phone call yesterday morning from the other one saying we want the house. And so we're moving forward with that. So it can come out of nowhere. Answer your phone. You never know what that's gonna
Start
be.
there. Yeah.
I did an open house for very reputable agents in the area, and the open house, I had one couple come through. They were clearly represented, talked about their agent constantly. I didn't know the person, but that's fine. There's lots of us out there, right? But spoke highly of him. We just had a good time. We talked a lot. They had their socks on and were like spinning, pirouetting on the floor, the hard floors. Like we just had fun, right? A really good time. So offer review is like 2 days later, and I get a phone call the night before from the listing agent saying that these folks really liked me and they can no longer reach or work with their agent for different reasons and had terminated their agreement and reached out to me. So it was, and we got the house. Yeah, happily ever after. So I was really fortunate that not only did I have the respect of the listing agents to connect me with them, because they totally could have taken that and directed it to somebody else, but we had so much fun and such a good rapport, and there was no pressure. And I didn't dismiss them because they already had someone. It was still just person to person relationship building. And whether they had called me ever again or not, we had a good time. And I'm really fortunate that we were able to work together and they got the home.
I don't know if you're picking up listeners on this, but I'm going to point it out either way. And that's to say, I think something that I'm realizing is that Rebecca has decided that open houses are fun and mindset is everything. She starts off from a point of saying, I'm going to leverage this in the best possible way. I'm going to have fun. And what is more attractive than fun, right? Like people are drawn to people who love what they do, who are good at what they do, and who are having fun. So if open houses are not fun for you, maybe start with an attitude shift and see how that can make such a difference. Open houses aren't for everyone. I worked with a woman years ago who I basically was like, you should probably never do those. You're bad at them. Right? Like just personality wise, she didn't want to be there and everyone knew it. And so what a waste of time, right? But for the most part, I think brokers can decide to use this as such a huge part of their business. That's great. And I like that you also said personal. So there isn't just this standard format. Thanks for coming to my open house. If you have any questions, let me know, which is such an easy text message or email to ignore. Like, yep, done. It's, oh my gosh, I had so much fun meeting you. Your daughter Rachel was so cute. I love that she was, doing ballet on the floors or whatever it was. There's something meaty and personal about that message that I think catches the attention of those buyers. And I think that's part of the reason that you are successful in having people go, hey, wait a minute, this feels different, right? This feels like someone cares and notices us or remembers our name and reaches back out. So don't underestimate the power of that follow up and make it personal. Let me have you speak to the agent who says, okay, I hear all this and I want to be better at open houses, at converting and at doing it. What are three things you would say to them to say this is how you can be better?
Mindset is probably one of the biggest things. Whether that's you take 20 minutes and go sit at a coffee shop first with your headphones on and listen to a great song or a podcast that'll get you excited. Getting to the house early, and if you're into social media, if you have the permission, of course, to do some social media stuff and just really kind of feel out the house, get excited about it. The mindset is key. Knowing that you're there to host. You're hosting this house. You're honored to be there. You get to invite people into this house. You could go host an open house at whatever price point you want. There's houses I've hosted that I could never afford. You get to host this party essentially of folks coming through here and showcase this. Like, imagine you have a brand new home yourself and you're trying to show your friends. You get to do this for free. Bring them in, like, get them excited. Be kind of that beacon of excitement about this home. So, mindset is huge. Shadow somebody else. If there's somebody else in your office who's really just great at open houses or seems to just really know what they're doing with them, ask to go shadow, be a fly on the wall, let them know you're not looking to take their leads from it, but just want to watch and observe what they're doing. That's probably the other thing that I would really say is key. Not every open house is going to generate business. There's some that you're like watching the flies go in circles in the middle of the room, right? But choosing ones that are really going to be good for you to showcase, running into the same buyers over and over, same neighborhood, same price points can really affect things. Just being a little more selective on what you're trying to do.
So, Rebecca, I've heard you say a couple of things, and then I'm going to give you a chance to add to it because, as a good ninja person, I'm going to say what else, right? My question always is what else, but I'm going to just recap for a minute to say mindset. I love that you just said take the time. I almost think like a boxer, right? Like a boxer's going to go out and take their match, and they've got their headset on, or the Olympian, right? Who's like getting in the headspace to go compete. Get in your headspace to go in and say, I'm going to be on. This is work and I'm going to be on and I'm going to take advantage of this 3 hour opportunity, whatever it is. But that requires you not flying in, but like throwing out your open house hours. There's people waiting, you're running in the door. That's not the headspace we want. We want you to say, I need some time ahead of time. I love that. Prep yourself. And then this honor to be a host. Oh my gosh, I get to host this party every week. and I get to meet cool people. And even if none of them turn into buyers for the first however many long, it's my ability to practice, to talk, to ask good questions, to be a good listener, to be a good host. I love that. And then shadowing, you were talking about watch someone who's good at it. I mean, Rebecca's going to probably be inundated after this podcast with people calling her saying, "Can we come to one of your open houses?" I hope that happens because you're so good at it. But is there anything else you can say to help someone who says, "I want to be better at this"?
Probably the follow-up is a huge part of it, especially if it's a slow open house or maybe you get front loaded with folks at the beginning of this, 2 or 3 hours, and then by 4 o'clock, you're like, "Ah, is it almost over?" And then you go home and you get back into life or you have plans afterwards. Try to give yourself some flexibility to kind of follow up. Take the time to put them into your database so that you can follow up with folks. Send those emails right away so you don't forget about them. Don't plan that once the open house is over that you've clocked out. There's more to it. So it's the follow-up. It's maybe you are gonna need to make those phone calls to those folks you just met who wanna buy the house. Make sure that you're allowing yourself some freedom in your schedule to be able to follow up with these folks. So that's probably key. I always start the open house a few minutes early too. Like, I'm prepared and the door is open at least 10 to 15 minutes early because you just never know when that early bird is just gonna be chomping at the bit, and you get that one-on-one conversation with them before the crowd shows up, essentially. Just give yourself the time before and after. That's probably one of the other things I would say would be key.
I love it. And I just want to reiterate too that if let's just say, because I love like real concrete examples, that you're holding it open from 1 to 3 on a Sunday. So what that really means is that we're starting at noon. We're kind of blocking from noon to 4, right?
Yep.
Because we want to get in the practice, the rhythm of saying, this is what I do prior to an open, and this is what I do after an open to make it worth your time. Otherwise, what's the point? What's the point? Oh my gosh, this was so meaty. Thank you so much. This was really fun. I love that you're a kick-ass realtor that works in my office. That's awesome. But also that you have just really been so good at open houses and are continuing to be better. We just had our meeting yesterday at Scout, and Rebecca was like, "Yep, did an open and got two more, people working with them." And everyone in the office is like, "How does she do this?" So I thought, what a better way to have everyone gain from hearing from your knowledge. So thank you for your time today and for being on the show.
Thank you, I'm honored.
Thank you so much for listening into Pocket Hours. I hope this has been interesting, fun, made you laugh, made you think, spurred you on to do and implement some new things in your business. I appreciate your time and hope this has been a good use of it, period. Now, go be the agent you would hire.
Audiotocracy.